Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. The Morgan horse is synonymous with Vermont. The Morgan is our state animal and the breed's strength and versatility are known around the world. The Morgan Horse Heritage Foundation is dedicated to preserving the history of the Morgan horse in Vermont, and it provides equine education throughout the state. Today we're going to learn about an upcoming indoor clinic that's sponsored by the foundation. The indoor clinic will be held Saturday, April 4th at the Sharon Elementary School. It's an opportunity to learn about various disciplines for your horse. You can find information, including how to register, at the website on your screen, morganhorseheritagefoundation.com. My first guest is the Foundation's Vice President and Coordinator of the Indoor Equine Clinic, Marilyn Childs. Welcome. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, what's so unique about this clinic that's coming up April 2nd?
Well, I think when we say equine clinic, most people think of a clinic being held in a stable where there's one horseman working with a horse, or maybe more than that. This is entirely different because instead of being in a stable, we're in a school. And in the school, we have classrooms. And we, instead of having one expert, we're having 4. They will each be in their own individual classroom. So this gives the opportunity for participants to really go one-on-one with the experts. And I think that is quite different. This being an indoor in a school. And don't forget, we have lunch at the end.
Well, which is really important, too, because it's nice for people to be able to ask their questions, because people have lots of questions that they have specific answers for.
Right, and being in small classrooms, it's easy to go one-on-one.
Now, in previous clinics, you've had a presenter who was particularly effective. Tell me about him.
Yes, we had one, Richard Boulay, who is returning this year by popular demand. He is a trainer who has produced champions under saddle, in harness, Western, and hunter. So it's quite unusual.
So now, what is his focus, and what is he going to talk about?
Richard's focus is on mouthing and bitting. He considers this absolutely essential to produce a good horse for either saddle or harness work. And what's unique about Richard's presentation is that he starts from the colt with just a halter wearing into the various bitting processes, showing different types of bits and when he uses them and so forth. And all of which leads up to getting the horse to work in a bitting harness before he actually is doing real work.
Now, I think a lot of people might think, don't you just put the saddle and bridle on the horse and go?
No, we certainly don't. Richard certainly doesn't. He works very carefully through this mouthing and bitting process with every horse that he gets.
Is there evidence of positive results?
Yes, I think we have evidence. I can show you one of our champion horses under saddle.
Whoa.
Now there, a horse that has been carefully brought along, now performing in the ring under saddle.
That's beautiful. I don't think people really understand how traumatic it can be for a horse if you force it to do something it doesn't want to do, or it is afraid to do, or it's painful for them to do.
Well, believe me, horses that have been through Richard's bitting process go where they're supposed to go, when they're supposed to do it.
Now look at this, and now what are we seeing here?
Well, now we have the same horse showing in harness. And again, all the preparatory work has been done before these horses hit the show ring.
Now, what other clinics and topics will there be covered?
Well, we have Polly Quinn from Heinsberg. She's a really sage of all Morgan horse history, and I'm sure Judy knows that. She will be discussing the Morgan history and any questions thereon. New, I think, to the breed, or fairly new, is the emphasis on dressage. So this year, for the first time, we're going to have a dressage expert, Mary Savage, who will be addressing why dressage.
And so joining us now is John Greenall. John owns Greenall's Carriage House in West Windsor, which specializes in antique horse carriages. John is also an international authority on carriage driving as well as endurance riding and driving. You're a busy man. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure to be here, Judy. Thank you for asking me.
What are you going to be covering at the clinic?
Well, I'm going to be talking about horses, Morgan horses, doing both competitive and endurance riding and driving, and also carriage driving.
Let's start with carriage.
Okay, probably in the United States today, the Morgan is the most used and the most successful horse in carriage driving competition nationwide.
Why is that?
Well, they're very versatile and they have a great work ethic, and they have been produced to do this sort of thing forever and ever since the 1700s.
And now I know you have a specific picture that you wanted to talk about.
Sure, let me see which in that picture. This is, oh, that's a different, this is a horse in what we call a jog cart. This is not an antique carriage, but if you look closely above the horse's neck, there's a strap in the air. That's called a check. And that in the show horse ring, we use that check rein to keep the horse's head up and alert. But in carriage driving, we want a more natural horse, so we don't use any checks. So it's a same type of a competition, but it's a little more natural frame. Here's a horse driving. You see, just standing, it has a natural headset by itself, so there is no need for these checks.
As mentioned, you're also involved with endurance. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there's a competition, it's international, called endurance. And endurance is actually a race. All the horses start at the same time, and then they go from 15 to, let's say, 100 miles in a day in a competition.
Really?
Into the 100 miles, there are mandatory rest halts put in for the horses for their well-being, where they're checked by veterinarians and judges. So, and it's an actual race. The other side of that coin is something called competitive. It's both riding and driving, where the horses go one at a time, they're released, and they have an ideal time, and they travel at about 6.5 miles an hour, where the endurance horses are going more like 11 or 12 miles an hour.
Wow.
And they have to finish in a prescribed time, and they have to be sound.
Tell me a little bit about some of the training that goes into that kind of a competition, because...
Well, to get a horse ready to do a 100-mile race, and there is one, the only one in the whole world that takes place in West Windsor, Vermont, and the surrounding towns, where we have 100 horses and 450 ultra-marathon runners from around the world, all doing 100 miles in one day together. But to get to this, you start very slowly, and it probably would take a horse or a runner many, many years to get up to this level. You can imagine doing yourself 100. I don't jog to my mailbox, let alone do 100 miles.
That's something I don't want any part of. Now, we've been discussing the upcoming indoor equine clinic. Tell us about your carriage house and your involvement in this particular sport, because if anybody looks on your website, there are gorgeous photographs of amazing carriages.
Well, you just Google Greenall carriage and it comes up. But I had Morgan horses. I was involved in the high class showing, which you did see a photograph of. But I decided I wanted to do things more naturally. I had carriages, so I started competing with carriages. And now I was a pioneer in the 70s, and now there are carriage competition divisions in every Morgan horse show in the United States, including the World Championships, which take place in Oklahoma City.
And that's something that you're very involved in.
Yes, I've judged it. I've competed there many times. I've been lucky to be a champion there, and it's been a great growth period.
Now, I know that we have some pictures, too, of some of, I think, your barn, some of the carriages and some harnesses. Maybe we'll take a look at those, and you can explain what we're seeing here.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, this is, I'm standing, it's inside my carriage house. It's, I have about 40 vehicles there in my collection at this time. And I have everything from 2-wheel carts to a large coach which holds 12 people all sitting on the roof.
No kidding. That's amazing. I think we have another picture too that we're going to take a look at.
And we use all our vehicles. It's a museum. Though this is my harness room, and there's 36 sides of harness.
I was going to say,
collection.
how many? That's a lot of tack.
Well, we have harnesses on the left are for four-horse 4-in-hand harnesses. On the right, there's single pair and tandem harnesses. So often you need a special harness for a particular carriage. Because I specialize in doing everything correctly, and I help people all over the country with the etiquette and the history and the tradition of the carriage and the horse, and it works perfectly with the Morgan horse itself.
Do you have a lot of people who have a lot of questions about this? Is it a growing sport, do you think? Or?
It is a growing sport. A lot of people can do a Morgan in a carriage without having a professional trainer. They can do it themselves. Some people just drive for pleasure around their homes or farms, and others compete, or they do both.
What are we seeing here?
I think John's showing a picture.
There's a tandem, which is known as the most difficult way to drive a horse in a carriage. The horse and the front is just out there all by itself.
Right.
And this originated before there were horse trailers. If you wanted to go fox hunting, you would drive a tandem to a fox hunt meet. The horse closest to the wheel did all the work to get there, and he would rest. And then the lead horse would be unhooked, put the saddle and bridle on, then he'd be fox hunted the whole day while the other horse rested. And then you drive home again at night.
No kidding. That's great. Wonderful. Now, Marilyn, talk a little bit about the schedule for the upcoming clinic.
Well, we start out with a welcome coffee at 9:30 in the morning. Then we have hour-long sessions at 10, 11, and 12. And the attendees can pick whatever room they wish to go with whatever expert that they wish to have. Then we wind up with lunch at 1 o'clock. And I think John has something to say about after lunch.
Anyone who'd like to can come and tour my carriage collection and my harness collection in the afternoon.
Wonderful.
So it's a private collection. It's not like an open museum. It's a private collection. But we'll be open that day for anyone who wants to come and see it. So it's like a double header for someone doing the clinic.
Yeah, this is a real bonus for those who come to the clinic.
That's terrific. What kinds of questions do you get from people who are interested in this sport?
Oh, they want to know how old the vehicles have to be, and of course most antique vehicles are now all 100 years old. So there's a great many high-quality reproduction carriages being made now that have good, strong wheels. And some of the new wheels now are made out of metal entirely, so they're very strong. You can do the rigors of truly competitive carriage driving.
What does competitive carriage driving involve?
Well, we have something called combined driving, which is 3 events, just like eventing when you're riding a horse. We have a dressage day, we have a cross-country phase where you drive through mazes at speed, and then we have a day when we drive cones, also at speed. It's quite technical. Sometimes we have competitive carriage driving classes where you are judged either on how the entire look, the turnout, or how well the horse goes, or how fast, or how well the driver actually drives and maneuvers that particular animal.
Can it be dangerous?
I think anything can be dangerous. Crossing the street can be dangerous. But it's a great way to do something with your horse. And I found as I travel around, a lot of people who maybe their knees have given out of them, now they can drive a carriage. And they can take their whole family with them.
And tell me a little bit about judging, and what are some of the things that you look for when you're judging an event?
Well, when I'm judging, let's say, a pleasure driving event, we have 3 divisions. We have the turnout class where we spit, polish, everything correct, proper, dress, cleanliness.
And there are a lot of bits and pieces that go into this too.
Lots and lots and lots. And then we have another division called reinsmanship, where you are judging how well you actually drive your carriage to maneuver. And so it's fun.
It sounds like a lot of fun. We should mention that the Indoor Equine Clinic is being held on Saturday, April 4th at the Sharon Elementary School. For more information, you can call 802-685-4444. 802-685-4853. That's 802-685-4853. Or you can check the website on your screen. It's MorganHorseHeritageFoundation.com. And Marilyn, just we have a few seconds left. Maybe you could explain to people why they should participate in this unique event.
Well, one reason is we have 3 clinicians who are USEF judges. That's the United States Equestrian Federation, which governs all equine activities. So it's quite unusual to have 3 judges that you can go and talk to.
A great opportunity for folks if they have questions. Well, I want to thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.